Hi there, welcome to this video where I'm going to show you how you can run complex math calculations within Bubble. So it's not super easy to run complicated math calculations within Bubble. It doesn't natively have, or doesn't make it super easy to do that. So there are several different ways, 3 or 4 different ways to do that, all of which have their own pluses and negatives, and all of which I use within different projects depending on what's needed. If you're new around here, my name's Matt. I'm a Bubble developer and I help bootstrap SaaSes to build their products on Bubble. So here we are, and this is the math calculation that we want to run. Now it's not that complex, but it's complex enough to show how it works. So within Bubble, Bubble doesn't natively follow BODMAS or BIDMAS, so brackets, index, division, multiplication, etc. It just goes left to right. So going left to right on this, it gets 3.03, which is incorrect. If we run this through just the search, this is going to give us 1.03 and some more bits. But that's essentially the correct answers here on these 3 methods. And these 3 methods, just to go over them quickly, are using the Toolbox plugin and having an expression, which is really good for front-end calculations. I use this one the most. There's then the native Bubble way, and there's 2 different ways you could do this, either with nested arbitrary texts and then converting them to numbers, or by using the fact that Bubble goes left to right and then reordering how Bubble works it out. These aren't particularly good ways to do it, but they do work for simple, complex calculations. So calculations where the order matters, but maybe it's not, 5 or 6 different numbers. Maybe it's just 2 or 3. And then the last way is using JavaScript. And this is really good for both front-end and back-end, but it does require use of JavaScript, just a tiny bit, not much. But I know that a lot of people use Bubble so they don't have to code if they don't have coding experience. So you may not want to use this if you're really uncomfortable using JavaScript, but it is super easy. So bear with me, I'm going to go through each of these and show you how they all work. So let's start off with the expression element from Toolbox. So if I go over to the back end, first for this one, we are going to need the Toolbox plugin, which you just find by searching for Toolbox. It looks like this. And when we have that installed, we'll be able to get an element called expression. I'm going to delete this and bring it back in, create it again so you can see how this works. So if I search down here expression, I'm going to drag it in. Let's put it down here just for neatness. Now this is going to be empty. You're not going to see it, but it is going to take up space. So a good thing to do is just to put the height and width down to 1 and to 1. Then in the expression A, this is where we can put in an expression, so the calculation. But the great thing here is that it does take BODMAS, or the proper way that you're meant to run the calculation in terms of the order of everything. It does take that into account. So what we do here is I'm going to copy this if I can. Find my expression. Obviously, I made it very small, so I have to find it in the hierarchy. Paste it in there. Take away the equals. And change the result type to number. Before I connect this all up, I'm just going to go over here and open this just so you can see that it's not connected, so nothing's appearing. So once I've got the expression A and that's filled in here, what I want to do is go over to wherever I want to display it. So the expression is not going to display the answer to this expression, it's just holding it and just doing the expression. We still need to reference it. So if we go over to wherever we want to display it, so the answer here. Let's get rid of this. This was the previous one. And then I am going to go here, and I'm going to go expression 8 and get the value. And then if we do reload this now, we should see that this is 1.03. There we go. Okay, so that's the way how you can use the expression toolbox, or the expression element from Toolbox, to do this, and that works quite nicely. And again, I use this for the majority of cases. It's really good for the front end. But there are other uses. So moving on to the next one, this is the native Bubble way, and there are 2 different ways to do this. In fact, first I'm going to start off by showing the reordering method. So this is, as it sounds, we're just reordering the way in which we do the calculation in order to make use of Bubble's native way of doing it, which is working left to right, rather than doing brackets first and then division, etc. So this sum here, which we're wanting to do, If we reorder it to work left to right, it turns into this here, because the brackets we want to do first, so 12 minus 7, so that goes first. Then we want to divide by 14, so divide by 14, then times 5, and then minus 0.75. So as you can see, we're just changing the order. And if I go over to the back end to see how this works, in here, all that I've done, and I've had to use arbitrary text for the first one. Whenever you want to work out, run a calculation, you have to use, you can't just use text, you have to convert it to a number. So this first number in here is just 12 converted to a number. You can see it's the same as happening here. 12 minus 7 divided by 14 times 5 minus 0.75, which is exactly what is running there. And as you can see, that comes out as the correct answer. So that's one way of doing it as well, just by using reordering. However, I wouldn't recommend this one if you've got more than like 3 numbers, as it does get a bit complicated, and it's not natural. That this shouldn't equal that. It's only because Bubble runs it left to right, which is an incorrect way of doing it. So this is another way, which again is quite messy if you've got a large amount of numbers, but it is native Bubble, which is using nested arbitrary texts within one another. So let me show you how that works. In fact, let's come back over here. So if I open this up, you will see that I've got arbitrary text, which is converted to a number, and then I'm doing some sort of sum to this. And I'm working my way through. It's kind of the same as doing this, to be honest, except for you're breaking it down into different arbitrary texts. So we can see that this arbitrary text here, the first one, if I open that up, it opens another arbitrary text calculation, and this one's times 5. And you can see here, that's kind of the next step. And if I open this one, this is divided by 14. And then if I open this again, it's going to be minus 7. And then if I open this one, it's going to be 12. So it's essentially the same as here, except from sometimes breaking it down into arbitrary text does make it a little bit more simpler. It's because there's only one calculation happening at a time. But as you can see, not super easy when you're working with like 5 numbers. So I wouldn't really recommend it that much. But if you just need to work with 3 numbers, maybe 4 numbers, and they're fairly simple, either one of these methods here can be something that you can use, and it's fine. And the good thing about this is you can use it both on the back end as well as the front end. So this isn't just you can run this field, the arbitrary text minus a number, also on the back end as well as on the front end, which means that if you're wanting to calculate a number and store it in the back end, not just display it on the front end, you can do this as well. So let's have a look at the last way, which is using JavaScript. Now, if you're running really complex calculations, this is going to be the best one, because JavaScript gives you just endless possibilities in terms of the different ways in which you can order the maths, and you can split it up, and you can call APIs from within the JavaScript if you are comfortable using JavaScript. So the way that this works is that we are, again, using Toolbox, so that plugin Toolbox, and we are using the JavaScript to Bubble. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm in fact going to delete. I'm going to delete this and create it again so you can see what we're doing. So let me remove this. So what I want to do is have a new element called JavaScript to Bubble. I'm going to put this in here. Okay, just gone up to there. Let me move this. Not that it really matters. Let's just keep it a little bit neater. Let's put it there. That's fine. And again, you probably want to name this something better than just JavaScript to Bubble A, but that's fine for now. So the first thing that we want to do here is we want to name it something. I'm going to call it run and then calculation. And then we are going to want to select publish value, which means it's going to be able to return a number. And we do want to return a number because we want to show it. And then the value type, we want here to be a number. Okay, so this is really important here, because this is how we're going to access this element from the backend. So I'm going to copy this just so I can get it exactly correct. And also the great thing about using JavaScript to do this is that we can trigger it based upon a button press, which the other ones you can't. They just happen when the page loads. So if you only want something to run when you press a button, this one's really good. For instance, if you are running a calculation which does lots of searches or lots of API calls, then you don't always want that to run whenever a page loads, because that's going to be really taking up a lot of resources. So having it only run when you want to run it can be quite a good thing if you do have like a very a heavy process to run. So let's say this is the button that we want to use in order to generate this number. So let's open this up. And I've already got this script in here, but I'm going to remove this for now. I'm going to create it again. So you'd open this up and you'd have it blank. And if we select run JavaScript, now this is where we're going to have to write a little bit of JavaScript. And again, you can use ChatGPT to run this or to create this if you're not super familiar with JavaScript. Those who have a little bit of experience, very, very simple. All you need to do is, actually, I'm going to paste in that, what do we call it? It's like the suffix that we used over here. And then we also need to have bubble underscore fn before this. So if we come over to the backend, we want to put in before this, bubble underscore fn, and then underscore that. And then we want to close it off. And that's fine for now. Then this is where we want to run the calculation. So we want to declare constant. I'm just going to call this result. And then this is where we're going to run the calculation. So I can't remember what it was. Let me go over and copy it. So I'll take it from here. And again, with with JavaScript, it runs calculations as they should be ran. So we'll just paste it like that. Put a semicolon on the end of it. And then if we just pass in result, so pass in the variable into there, which means it's going to return this number. So when this JavaScript is run, it's going to call this JavaScript to bubble, or I can't remember what it is, bubble to JavaScript, whatever that element is, it's going to call it where it has run calculation, pass in the result, which is calculated here, and that's what we're going to get. Then the last thing that we need to do is set this, we see this has gone red because we deleted the previous one, set this to the JavaScript to bubble as value. So that's the value that's going to be passed to this element once it's been run. So hopefully that's everything. Okay, so we can see it doesn't appear first of all, which is fine. That's how we want it to work, because if it's a big calculation, we don't want it to run straight away, perhaps. So when we hit run JavaScript, there we can see that's running and it's pulling in that number. So there we can see 3 different ways, or 4, I guess, but these ones are kind of the same. 3 or 4 different ways which you can run complex math calculations within Bubble, meaning that you don't just have to, well, you can actually get the calculations correct for more complex calculations. Several different ways which have several different upsides and downsides, and you can see that this one here has a rounding error, but hopefully, that's not important if you're, focused on the 10th decimal, if that's important to you. But if it is, then just use one of the other methods, and you can see that even these 2, which are kind of the same, work it out in a different way. But there you can see 3 different ways which you can run complex math calculations, all of which are slightly different, have their own uses, and hopefully you can figure out which one is best for you in your use case, and you can use that to run your complex math calculations. Hopefully you have found this useful. If you have, then it'd be great if you could leave this video a like, subscribe if you want to see more of these Bubble tutorials, and leave a comment if you do have any questions, and I'll try to get back to you with any questions that you do have. That's it from me. Hopefully this was useful, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.